Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good to be with you again on this freezing cold Thursday. Jeepers. Um, we're going to go to the next phase. You've got the notes that you can, in your pre-work, that you're able to open up. And my hope is that you can print those out and make whatever notes you want to use, but it'll help you in following along. So today we're going to start off with talking about shame. And shame's one of those things that affects all of us. I also gave you a link to a lady named Bren Brown, and TED Talk that she had done, listening for shame. And that's something that we can encourage one another to do as we are called to minister to people. And so that'll help us to know whether they're how they're coming out, whether they're coming out of wholeness or whether they're coming out of hurt and pain. And a lot of times that's been spurred on through shame in their life. And so shame has established for me an internal image of who I should be based upon society's expectations and value system, and I think my own personal experiences. I want to just kind of, I think something that'll help us to understand where I'm coming at in shame, and especially when I talk about personal experiences. If you just look at this little thing I put together here, this is kind of how I look at it. So every situation and circumstance is influenced. It's influenced by good, it's influenced by evil. You could say it's influenced by angels or it's influenced by demons, but there's influence that's going on. And when we're in that situation and circumstance, what happens is it goes through our filter, and our filter is our history. That's what we have experienced in our life up to this point. The things that have affected us and impacted us the most. And what comes out of that is the birthing of an emotion, okay? I like to call emotion energy in motion, all right? And that's what determines our action. So we can say we need to change our situation or circumstance, but really what we need to do is change our experiences. Transformation comes because of experiences. And for us as children of God, as we're called to be transformed by the renewing of our mind, that will come through new experiences, okay? And so remember our main two questions: who am I and what am I here for? And a lot of times you'll find people will try to answer question number 2 before they answer question number 2. But in trying to answer question number 2 first, it's a deception. I will deceive myself into thinking that by answering number 2 first, then I will know the answer to question number 1. But we want to know that God's order is, who am I is first, and then what am I here for is second. So that's why we're attempting to help everyone answer the first question first, and then we'll move on to later on help answering that second question. Shame is one of those things that will focus on the second question. It's about the action. It's about the doing. You know, if I do good, then I'm good. If I do bad, then I'm bad. It fosters this performance mindset that and a lot of times we think we can create these formulas, or we pursue formulas that are bound to fall short. So that's why we're going to spend a little bit more time in the next few weeks dealing with question 1 and answering that, who am I? Shame's goal is to conform what people see and how they experience me to the image that is felt on the inside. In other words, the power of shame comes in the form of guilt, obligation, the shoulds. Remember our little saying, don't you should on me? And fears. Fear of rejection, not being enough, not having what it takes, losing control, not being in control. Shame generates its power from darkness. One of the things that, before I go any farther here is if we're trying to do something that we're not necessarily gifted to or talented in, and we begin to compare ourselves with those that are gifted and talented, we're setting ourselves up for shame. I can remember when I was attempting to play golf. And one of the things that, and it took me actually a few years to realize and actually be okay with it. You know what? I'm terrible at golf. I suck at golf. And I finally admitted it. But once I admitted that, then I felt free to enjoy the game. I couldn't enjoy the game because I couldn't keep up with the other guys that I was going out and playing with. And I know some of you said, well, you should have found guys to play with that were worse than you. But the competitiveness in me wanted to have a better score. And that was the measure of success, right? Having a better score. But what I learned was once I admitted how bad I was, and once I got free from all of that and began to enjoy the game, to me then the success became the fellowship that I began to enjoy in the game. So, but I was beginning to experience shame because I couldn't keep up with the other guys as far as how the score went. Shame generates its power from darkness. You know, what light is to solar power, darkness is to shame. So we see that shame's strongest and most controlling when you're unaware of it. Either when you're unaware of it or you're trying to hide it. Shame is death or lifeless to us. It uses the very thing it tells us we shouldn't have to motivate us. It's a system that perpetuates itself because the system generates the very thing it's trying to destroy. So, you know, one example is fear. Shame both fosters a sense of fear because of rejection, not belonging, so that we'll conform, and simultaneously ridicules us for having fear. Don't let anyone know how afraid you are. You know, buck up, you know, bow up. Because our fear makes us weak. And you know what? You know, especially as guys, you know, we're not supposed to be weak because then we're going to get rejected, right? To learn how to be honest with ourselves is really the strength of learning who we are and how we can become very comfortable with that. So, but if we remain in darkness, our shame remains fully fueled. It's kind of interesting to me and kind of fun to me when I hear somebody say something like, well, I don't care what other people think. And usually what you find out is that person really cares the most. It's, you know, Hamlet's play, Thou protestest too much. We're relational creatures. We're created that way. We're created to belong. And I believe everyone cares about their relationships one way or another. Sometimes you find in our Christian vernacular, shame is called sin. And in a lot of ways, I think it's a better word because sin has been so misunderstood for so long and thought to be a bad behavior. And really, it's not. It's disobedience, okay? Because of the inner conflict shame creates, when it's triggered, we put up these protective layers. And that's one of the questions you guys are going to get to answer or respond to is about that, the protective layers.